Noah, hi.
Hello, Jeff Berman.
Welcome to Masters of Scale.
I was like, man, I guess I'm scaling.
I think you might have already scaled. We haven't hung out in at least a decade.
Yeah.
You've been busy. Let's start with AppSumo.
Yeah.
For those of our listeners, viewers who don't know it, what is it?
AppSumo is software deals for entrepreneurs, and specifically for small business owners, or today you'd call them solopreneurs. And so for me, it was a culmination of 10 years of work to get to that point of starting the business, where I was like, I love promoting things. I love deals. I love software. Maybe I can do all that, and that's my career. And so I went out and just negotiated deals on like LinkedIn. Wasn't really a deal. A lot of products that are very popular today, MailChimp was early. Like we helped launch those products, and we're still launching products on AppSumo today. So if someone out there is an agency, freelancer, starting a startup, and they're like, man, I can pay Canva is a popular one, or AI tools. Let's take a video editing tool. It's like $50 a month, which is like, if you're just getting started, it's a pretty expensive amount. You can come to AppSumo and we have alternatives. So we go out and find tools that are just more or less getting started. And then we negotiate a deal, $50 for life. So none of our products that we promote on our marketplace have subscriptions.
But you're pre-negotiating the terms for the AppSumo customers to get access to the to the tools, right?
Yeah. Think of someone like you, Jeff. You went out and you're in your basement here in Santa Monica, and you're like, oh man, I created JeffSoft, and it's a new AI video tool. And you're like, how do I get customers? And you go out and look at the market, and you're like, well, I could buy ads. I can go to the synagogue and pray. I can go on Twitter and hope. Or you come to AppSumo, and we have a marketplace of, a million entrepreneurs that want to buy software, and you do a deal with us, and we're able to help you, get that promotion.
Were you solving your own problem in doing this, or was this more of a market opportunity that you saw?
It was my own problem. I think that's the best ones to solve. I was excited. I was excited to find just all these cool tools that are out there, like Rocket app. It does emojis. I think that one's been an amazing one. Or Alfred app, which is like instead of Spotlight, you can use them to find things, or Clean Shot. It was just tools that I was like, oh, can I get my own deal on this? And then some of them need help promoting. So maybe I can promote and I'll actually even get paid for that. And that was 15 years ago. I kind of started more as a hobby. It was never supposed to scale. It wasn't supposed to be a business with employees. It was just supposed to, for me, I call it my book, to get my freedom number so I could actually just live how I wanted to live.
I love the concept of freedom number. So let's just give us freedom number, and then I want to come back to AppSumo.
I mean, I think most people, like my brother, he's a doctor, and he hates it. Doesn't
really?
Yeah, it doesn't, like having stuck to a desk or having to not be able to work flexibly. And that's a common theme. And so a freedom number is, how can you do the thing you actually want to do, and what's the minimum amount of number of dollars you need monthly so you can eventually decide to quit or not. And for me, getting started with AppSumo, my freedom number is $3,000. And most people, when they realize the number to actually do the thing they really want to do is so low, they're like, maybe I can do it.
So how do people figure out their freedom numbers? It literally, here's what my rent is, here's what I can take my rent down to, car payment, whatever. This is just covering the basics.
Yeah. And it could be, I'm about to have a daughter. So if your freedom number, it could be any number. There's not a better or worse number. But generally when people actually do the math, like how much is your rent, how much is your living, how much is your savings, like, oh, maybe it's not so high. And wow, I can actually get there and get the hell out of this day job that's risky, because you can waste your life at a day job. And I never wanted to do that.
So why is your brother still a doctor if he hates it?
I think he's afraid.
What do you think he's afraid of?
I think he's afraid of the unknown of like doing his own thing. He's afraid of, like, he had an idea for concierge medical advice, which I still think it's becoming more common now.
Yep.
But I think it was a little bit of like, can you get started in a very short amount of time? Can you get customers? And then can you do it for a period of time? Like success comes over decades is what I found, like wealth and success.
But not everyone's wired to be an entrepreneur, right? And so there's also optimizing for fulfillment in maybe a more narrow band. So I'm super curious with this. I've made massive career changes in my life, right? I started as a civil rights lawyer, and here I am having this conversation with you. So I'm super curious about, like, if your brother maybe is too risk averse, and we can talk about what's real risk and what isn't, but to jump into being an entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean he can't optimize for fulfillment as a doctor. So when you talk to people who are trying to figure that out, I have to imagine for a lot of them, you go, actually, you probably shouldn't go start your own thing. Is that true? Or are you like, no, everyone should be an entrepreneur?
I think everyone should be an entrepreneur.
Okay, say more.
So it doesn't mean you have to quit your day job. There's a lot of people who have day jobs but then you have a side hustle or something that's creative, there's upside to the income, and you have control of your destiny. When you've been fired as many times as I have, you realize like your job is at risk of one person deciding. And that's kind of risky. So for my brother, I think the fear was like, does he want to do this work to actually create the life he can live? And I don't see him putting in that work. He puts in the work and maybe he doesn't believe it fully. And I'm a guy who's literally written a book on it, like how others can do what I've done. And I'm seeing others do it. But it's committing versus for him, I don't know if the pain is painful enough. And what I mean by the pain, it's like, okay, he has to be in an office. He's like, all right, I only work till 5. And at 5, they don't get me anymore. And I'm like, if you can just give up 30 minutes a week, if you can just give up one Netflix show a week, if you can give up one thing a week and you keep doing it weekly, eventually you can have that business. And look, if you want to quit and do it, great, or keep both. I've seen people do both and it works out great. I think most people think they have to take a big risk. I got to like Reid Hoffman's famous line.
Yep.
Jump off a cliff. I'm like, and you build a parachute.
Build the airplane on the way down.
Which I was like, that sounds crazy to me. Like I've never quit my job until my freedom number was hit and my side hustle was working. And then I quit. I never took the risk.
So you and your brother grew up in the same home?
Yeah.
Same parents?
Yeah.
Why did that penny drop with you and it didn't drop with him?
I think I was hungry for the money. I was hungry for the money. I think I had a more, attachment style similar to my father. He was an entrepreneur. He sold copiers, which nowadays people don't know what those are.
And he was an Israeli immigrant.
Yeah. He was an immigrant, didn't speak English, and just hustled. And I used to follow him in his truck, and we'd go and deliver copiers. And that excited me. My mom was a nurse, and I think my brother liked the safety and he liked the status of the medical field.
So it's not every kid who's excited about delivering copiers in a truck. So what excited you about that experience? What lit that fire for you?
I liked that he was able to create as much money as he wanted. I like that he could take me to what's the place in Redwood City? It's gone now, but it was like this arcade park. And he's like, here's $20. You can, and I was like, I can play arcade forever. I'm like, this, I don't know. I don't want to lift copiers like you when I'm older, but some of this entrepreneurship thing you're doing is appealing to me. And I don't think my brother had that appeal.
Interesting. So, okay. So you referenced having been fired a few times. Talk about how AppSumo got started.
Yeah.
Where was it generated? And you said you weren't building it to scale.
No.
What happened that you're still doing this 15 years later?
It was crazy. I had a day job. I was working at a dating website.
Which one?
Speeddate.com. No one's used it. No one's ever found a date on that site. Like I hate to say the .com because I don't want people to go there, but they paid me $5,000 a month to do product management. And it was actually a funny side story. The people that I worked with created Udemy, which went on a public company. And so when I was there, I got excited about the problem. I think that's the thing in business people are kind of missing out. They're like chasing AI now or chasing being an influencer. Last year was crypto, or 2 years ago was Shopify. And I think just find areas you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to ever get tired of this. And I got excited after different businesses that didn't work out that I tried. But how do you help people promote things?
What did that ignite in you?
I think because I got fired by Facebook from Zuckerberg directly, I think I wanted to help other people that felt like they're not as popular. They didn't go to Harvard. They're not the elite. I wanted to help them succeed too. Because I felt like I wish someone would help me succeed.
It's democratizing entrepreneurship.
It was making available to, we call our customers and our aunts the underdogs. Like these people that have ability and they just need a little bit of light on them. And so for me, I got really obsessed and interested. But like, how do you promote these software products? Like there's only maybe give or take 10 at the time. Like in 2010, there was Dropbox, LinkedIn, MailChimp, FreshBooks, Time Doctor.
Buddy Media.
Yeah. What was Buddy Media?
Buddy Media was acquired by Salesforce. It was an incredible marketing software toolkit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There was
on the board there. So
there's not a ton though at that time. Yeah. And I was like, I like promoting. I want to help these kind of companies as they're getting bigger. Like, how could I solve it? So I actually tried a lot of variations before it worked. First one was Fishbowl. So, I wanted to put a fishbowl in local restaurants. It wasn't necessarily software, but I was like, maybe I can help promote local restaurants. So when you go into the restaurant, it's so hard to get someone to come into your business. If you could just get their email address, you just email them to come back.
Right.
Restaurants don't do anything. But the thing with small business restaurants, they're so busy running the restaurant, they can't do anything else.
Absolutely.
And so that one didn't go anywhere. Then I built a software review website because I thought, okay, I'll write reviews and I'll hire people to write reviews. So that was softwaretaco.com. After a month, no one came. Then I built Reward Level, which was a I can't even explain it. It was cross-registration software for small business software. No one used it.
Sign up for one thing, you automatically
and you
sign
get
up for
promoted to another.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there's a site called MacHeist. So this is one of the things in businesses, get inspiration outside of your area. Like if you're a man, go look at women's catalogs. If you're a kid, look at adult stuff or whatever it is, but just go out, look outside the area that you're always looking at, or get off your computer, go for a walk, get in nature. And so I saw that this MacHeist thing did like Mac bundle software. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's like all the things I've been excited about. Maybe I can do that for software deals on the web, not Mac, because I'm not as interested in the Mac software.
So I want to pause you because this isn't obvious to me that one should go look outside of the areas that they know. So, and I want to just, I saw Mark Cuban was recently asked, if you lost everything and you were down to $500 in an iPhone, what would you do? And his answer, and I'm summarizing here, was great question. Love this. I would go get a sales job and I would become, because I'm great at sales, and I'd become the expert on this area. And 3 months in, I'd be the best salesperson at this company. And I'd walk into the CEO's office and say, either you pay me this number or I'm going to go start a company and compete with you. So that is like, just become a domain expert and go.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that or do you see it differently?
The coolest part about getting rich is it doesn't discriminate. And you can do it worldwide. It's crazy. Like Spotify, where are they? Sweden? No, who cares? It's great stuff. And I think people are starting to recognize that you can get paid full price anywhere for talent. And you can create these businesses, whatever gender, height you are worldwide. And so, yeah, you can be a salesperson. You could be a marketer. You could be a chef. You can, I love seeing people get rich. I've interviewed people on my YouTube channel. One guy does basements. I don't even know what a basement is. We don't have them in California or Texas. Another guy got rich off ships. Just like a lot of different ways of creating wealth. And I think if people put in the effort, which doesn't even have to be that much. Yeah. You can create a cool life for yourself.
So let's go back to AppSumo. So you've got all these ideas. You're just a font of ideas. This. It almost, a lot of them didn't work. Yeah. So what started working? How did you get traction and go?
Yeah, with AppSumo, I got traction immediately. Yeah. And that's the thing. I've worked for hypergrowth. I think Reed calls them hypergrowth or these rocket ships. I've worked for
blitzscaling companies.
Yeah, I was early at Facebook.
Yep.
Blitzscaled.
Number 30 at Facebook.
Yeah, number 4 at mint.com, blitzscaled. Then I did Facebook games, which blitzscaled. Then I did payments for games, $30 million in 1 year, blitzscaled. And then AppSumo, our first year was somewhere 300,000 plus. Second year is 3 million. So a pretty quick scale of a bootstrap business. Yeah. But to your original point with AppSumo, I was like, okay, this MacHeist thing is cool, but I'm going to do it for my industry. Let me try it for web software. So I just tested it on Reddit. And in one weekend, I basically cold emailed a software creator. He was a college kid named Alan. He created Imgur. Okay. And what you want to do in business, which people miss backwards, is like, where are the customers? And I knew if the software product, there's customers on Reddit. That's where you use it. It's like, I can get a deal done, I know there's going to be customers here. And I think people just are not connecting the dots. And they can. It's not as challenging as they make it seem.
So it's fish where the fish are.
Exactly. And which sounds obvious.
No, but not everyone does it. But so just help me with how you made that connect. Totally. You're like, okay, there are entrepreneurs on Reddit. They're trying to figure stuff out. If I can offer a deal to them, I've got customers ready to go.
Yeah. So I saw this MacHeist bundle, which was software deals. Oh, cool. And they're like time limited, FOMO. Mm-hmm. Let me try it for web software and I'll just do one. Let me just see how that works. So I went to Reddit because I spend a lot of my day on Reddit. And I say, oh, there's a software product, this Imgur, that's already there. He's selling it for $24. Maybe I can cold email this guy. I'll sell it for some price. It's software, it doesn't cost him anything. And I'll pay him whatever I sell and see if he's okay with it.
And basically creating an affiliate model for him.
Yeah. Exclusive partnerships, but an affiliate model as well.
Okay.
And so when I emailed Alan, I just said, hey, I'm going to sell your product I'll pay you $7 for each one. I'll probably sell them for 12. I'm going to try to sell 200. Are you interested in me doing this? And for him, there's not really, when people are selling, it's actually pretty easy. Like I think I'm pretty good at sales, but I just try to understand what's important for him.
But why he's selling at $24 at the time. You're now cutting that price in half. Yeah. So you're basically saying, I'll send you $7, no cost to you. but there's potentially channel conflict. You're undercutting him in market. Yeah. Why does he say yes to that?
One, Alan's in college.
Okay.
And two, I'm like a 28-year-old. So what do I know? I think most of the most successful people are also the most naive. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying Alan or me were naive, but for me, if I'm coming to you, Jeff, and you said, hey, I created this thing, I'm selling it, selling okay. Some hungry young person or even older person comes to you and says, I'm going to sell it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to sell a shit ton of it for you. I'll pay you $7 for each one. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to do anything. There's no risk for you. And like, I don't think Alan was actively marketing his products. So that's the opportunity. If Google was cheaper or Facebook was more efficient or people could do marketing themselves, like there wouldn't be AppSumo. There wouldn't be Airbnb if you could just promote your home yourself.
Right.
And so, my interest was letting the geniuses of Alan create software, and my skill and my excitement is promotion. So how do I do the marketing for products then and still at AppSumo products today? And so I don't think the downside for him is pretty small. Like, okay, maybe I lose a little bit of money. And the upside is, wow, there's someone who's now a marketer for free.
And so how did you go from one product to selling a suite of products? Like what happened to evolve it?
So I think some of the important parts for people in the scale, or how do they blitzscale their own business. I just posted on Reddit. I just said, hey, I got this deal. And then I asked the founders to give me ads for free.
The founders of Reddit to give you ads for free.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Well, I think because they were launching their ad platform and they wanted some data on it. And so, what's worked for me, it worked for my father. I think it's worked for pretty much anyone who's done really well in life, is you have to ask. And that's one of these things where sometimes now I'm asking too much. So I got to pull back my asks. But the reality is in business, it's all asks. Will you be my customer? Will you be my partner? Will you work with me? That's all we're doing. Will you be my wife? Will you be my girlfriend? And so I just said, hey, you're doing these ads. Can I take you out for breakfast? Explain what I was doing. Hey, I'm just getting this started. Do you think you'd give me some free promotion for it? So I posted it once. I posted it and I got some free ad promotion. And pretty much instantly, I was like, holy shit, this is working.
So you're basically it's an arbitrage play with zero cost to you, essentially, right?
It cost me $48.
Okay,
Yeah, I know it's too much. I regret that.
No,
it cost me $48. I got a guy named Muhammad, who I still talk to this day, 15 years later. He helped me put the PayPal button on the website.
Okay,
and it was $12 for the domain. That's part of the $48. And then I use Gmail as my backend of my software. And the whole point, and this is what people get wrong, and I literally pray for the people listening to this, because I'm like, oh, I've spent a year or 2 years working on my product. I'm like, how many customers? None. How many views? Not many. Got it. It's time to do something different.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've just recognized so many times when I'm like, no, but I have to plan and spend so much to get it launched. You could find out really quickly if people want this or not.
Well, you've talked about, with regard to Mint, how a great product effectively markets itself.
100%.
How do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know?
So let's take AppSumo. I mean, I put it up on Reddit and instantly people are buying it. Now let me give you another story for that. So I start getting cocky, obviously. I've worked for these companies. Now, AppSumo today, almost $100 million a year in revenue, which is insane. It's insane. I can't believe it.
Why is it insane?
I don't know. It's just a lot of cash.
And
I never thought I would get to this level. And I don't wake up thinking, wow, we're 100 million. I want to get to 2 billion. It's not.
No, you've built, by my count, at least 8 multi-million-dollar businesses, right? So you clearly have a nose for it. And I want to get back to how you know when it's there.
Yeah.
But I don't read this as false humility. I'm genuinely curious. Like, why does it surprise you that that's where you are at this point?
It's beyond my dreams.
Okay.
Beyond my dreams.
Yeah.
I think from Silicon Valley, I think I got insecurity about like, wow, I'm good at launching. I can get to this $1 million of a product of desire. And then can I actually stay with it and scale these types of businesses out? Because I think there might be two types of scale. There's scale 0 to 1 to validation. And then there's scale 1 to N. Can you take that to a larger size? And I would say some of the success of the biggest companies, as much as the founders are smart, to anyone out there, they're not much smarter than you. That's the disappointing thing. Okay, Zuckerberg, he is smarter than you. Gates, I worked for him too. He's smarter than you. But most of these other people are not that much better than you. But they did it. They stuck with it. And then the market they actually chose was really unique and it just expanded so much.
Yeah.
So for AppSumo, take our business. Like, yes, I'm pretty smart, pretty good at marketing. But there used to be 10 software products. Now there's 10,000.
Yeah.
For the customers we appeal to, for just freelancers and solopreneurs. So part of just being in that wave, we succeeded. And so how do you come into your original question, what I've talked about in, $1 million weekend, and for me, it's 3 customers, 48 hours. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
If you can get 3 customers in 48 hours, you've got product market fit.
Yes. And let's break this down. Most people say, well, I need to build more. I know. Keep building. After that doesn't work, come back and try this. Let's even take Airbnb, one of Reed's most famous investments. They started this way.
Yeah.
They sent an email to a conference and they're like, hey, we have a couch. Does anyone want to run our couch? After other things, they did the cereal thing and other things. But really, it was this email to a design conference on a mailing list. People said, yes, please. And then they were smart enough to pay attention to it and then stick with it for, 15 years now. So for me, I've done other ways where I build it for a long time. I then finally do this giant launch, and then I find out no one wants it. So for instance, we built this product called Meet Fam. Have you heard of Klaviyo?
No.
Klaviyo is, I think, $5 or $10 billion. They're the number one email provider for all Shopify sites.
Huh, okay.
So if you're doing e-commerce, you use Klaviyo.
Yeah.
So we wanted to compete with them. And I was like, okay, well, let's build software that automates it so you don't even need an email marketer anymore. And that was the thing that we needed at AppSumo a little bit. So we spent, 6-12 months building it. We didn't go and how you can validate if anyone wants it. You can go talk to them who has an e-commerce site. Hey, can I run your email for you? Hey, can I move you off Klaviyo? And you would have found out I begged friends to move off to our new software. I couldn't beg people to use our product.
Why not?
Because they're like, I'm already using Klaviyo. It's good enough. What's better? What are you
Switching
doing better?
costs are high. It doesn't cost me that much money. It works well
How
enough.
much more are you going to make it?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is the switching costs? And so you could find that out really quickly. And you can go say, hey, I'm going to do this for you. Either do it manually or pre-sell it. And then if they buy it, great. Then you can go build it. But we built it and we thought we were just, super arrogant. And then when we launched it, it was very hard to convince people. And I think a few months later, we shut it down.
And is that the through line of the big misses that you've had? Is that you've built too long, have launched too late, you just haven't gone out and tried to find that product market fit?
I think what's changed in my perspective as I've gotten older is that a lot of success is just sticking with things. Mm. It's just sticking with it. And guess what? You don't have to do it yourself. Find someone else that likes sticking with it.
But when you're sticking with it, I mean, sometimes you're sticking with the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely
right?
that.
I mean, even if you find those 3 paying customers in the first 48 hours, like it turns out like market's really small. The return on investment of my time is going to be really low here. So what's the filter for where to stick with it and where to move on?
Yeah, so I think you have to be mindful when you start these things what the market size is going to be or what it is currently. For instance, saunas. Mm-hmm. Do you sauna?
I do.
I love schwitzen. I'm a huge schwitzer.
I love the schwitz and the ice.
I love a schwitz.
I like the combination.
So go to Google Trends today and check it out. Mm-hmm. Saunas are like through the roof. Huh, that's interesting. So you want to probably you look for things like that a little earlier. Because now when everyone knows AI, on AppSumo, we promote hundreds of AI writing tools. Now there's all these short video editor tools. There's just certain things. But if you're the one that's earlier in some of these ideas or trends or the marketplace for it, there's the opportunity. So part one is see if it's something that's going to be growing.
And you use Google Trends.
I use Facebook ads. You can use ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. It's also just kind of like using your intuition. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, everyone in my dorm started getting on Facebook like instantly. And I was like, this is weird. And then I use it. And I'm like, wow, I can see why everyone's using it. And so then, yes, you can use tools as well. But also, where do you see this in 6 months? And so what I'm noticing for most people is they stick with losers too long and winners not long enough. Mm. So what I mean by that is they don't do validation really quickly. They don't I launched AppSumo $50, right? Software Taco, the reward site, the review site that no one used, that was a WordPress blog.
Yeah.
That was my whole thing. No one used it. But people are like, I need to keep building. I need an app. You don't need an app. You need to solve a problem that people want to pay you for or use. And then stick with it for a long time if it's working. But most people do that backwards, meaning they find something people actually want and they're like, yeah, I just got bored of it. But to your point, just double check if there's enough market. Like, okay, can you see this making you $1 million in the next few years or not, personally?
And then how do you decide? I mean, let's go back to your brother for a second.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say, look, I'm sticking with my day job. This is going to be my side hustle.
Yeah.
It starts to get traction. The total addressable market is big enough. You can see what the opportunity is, but like, you're not giving up the day job.
Yeah.
How do you figure out when you actually start to hire someone, turn it into a real business, hand it off to someone else to run day to day? Like, where does that inflection point come in?
Well, one thing to take a step back in this business stuff is that, we were talking in Spanish before this. You have to practice.
Yeah.
And I think people think of business like, oh, that guy, she's a businesswoman. She just knows it. No, she's just done more practice. And the same thing in business. So yes, your market size might be small. And a lot of things that I preach, it's like, don't worry about the market size. Worry about if you're solving customer demand. And can you help more people? Great. And even if you don't, fine, you're getting some reps in that you can then use. Like no one's first hit is their home run. Almost every time it's like, take Zuckerberg. He launched a file sharing site, Wirehog. Then he copied other people. He didn't even come up with it himself. He copied other people. Then he came up with the Facebook. And so I think people get obsessed with some of these other things. And
but I want to drill into this because I think for a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of people who are like, look, I can't afford to quit my day job. My freedom number isn't being met over here. I gotta stick with what I'm doing
Yeah.
day by day. And you do hit this inflection point
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, there's definitely product market fit. This is a thing. The total addressable market is big enough, right? But I'm not willing to give up what I'm doing day to day.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the point at which a lot of these people go, like, it's just fine. It is what it is. And it either peters out or, kind of toddles along for a while. So because we talked about 0 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going 1 to N, or even just 1 to 2. What's someone to do in that moment?
A lot of times when people are asking about scale or marketing, they're trying to understand if people want this product. Like, how many people want more money? Everyone listening. Right?
Pretty much.
How many people want to have love? Almost everyone, right? So there are good markets to be in that. There's large customer base. And if you can solve a problem within that, that's really desirable, you're going to do well. Now, for me, I think hiring is a great practice. And the easiest way to practice it at home. Hire a cleaner. Just practice it. Do they come on time? Do you have a checklist for them? How do you make sure they're doing well? How do you pay them where they feel good and you feel good? And you could do it in small things. You're like, really? Yeah, that's it. And then you can start practicing that in your business. And so, the way that we even look at it at AppSumo, it's like, what's our number one bottleneck from limiting us to growing faster? And so for AppSumo these days, lately, we want to improve our deal quality because we have a flywheel where we have better deals, more customers find out about it, more partners want to get on the site, then we get more customers, and it just keeps expanding our marketplace. So I would say hire as soon as you can and think about the one thing holding you back. So for me, with our site, I was doing it super casually, to be clear. It wasn't, hey, I need to go out. I was like, let me get my $3,000 a month. I'm going to quit this day job.
Yep.
And I got it within about 5 months of work. And then a few months later, I was like, I hate getting these deals. I don't want to get the deals anymore. I just want to do the marketing part. So then I just put out an offer, and that's what, you don't even have to pay the person. I said, hey, I'll give you 25% whatever you sell.
Pure commission.
Yeah. So there's no risk for me. If he kills a lot, like you were talking about Mark Cuban, he's going to eat a lot.
Yep.
And so Matt came out, started selling, and second month he made $25,000 for himself.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. and is for you with AppSumo, is that the point at which you said, look, I got to spend more time on this. I got to double down and really build this out?
I was thinking about this a lot in that every time we've tried to hyperscale and go beyond, I guess, the organic growth curve of our company, we fucked it up. We messed it up a lot of times where we started hiring him, we hired a few other people, and then we got to 20 people. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Because you were hiring ahead of the demand?
Ahead of the demand, and what you think, when you listen to the show and they're like, yeah, I hired all these people and I grew. And it's like, okay, I'm supposed to do that too. And I think everyone has to take a step back, like zoom out of the fishbowl or the matrix and think about what kind of life are you trying to create? So for me, I want to promote great products. I want to work with good people, and I want to live my life. Like, I left Silicon Valley because people are like, oh, it's a lifestyle business. I don't know. It's like, I'm making a few $1 million a year lifestyle. It's pretty damn great.
It's a pretty good lifestyle.
It's a very good lifestyle. And so I think we kind of rushed, and I've rushed. And as I'm getting older, I'm just working more on my patience. But yeah, we rushed into hiring, we have to scale it. And we've done that. I've done that now twice where I've had some huge catastrophes in the business that I've had to pull back from.
And the counter argument is, well, someone else is going to go raise a bunch of money, hire a bunch of people, flood the marketing channels. They're going to see what you're doing, and they're going to go blitzscale it and beat you to it. So why shouldn't you be worried about that?
Yeah, I think you should. One of the more obvious things is to worry about your customers. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I've changed my perspective on, because I did come from, like, I have an advisor, Andrew Chen. He's like, if you're not $1 billion company, you failed. And I love Andrew. Andrew's
brilliant.
And he really is. And then I get influenced by him, and I'm like, I'm failing. It's like, dude, you're doing awesome, Noah. And so I've changed my perspective where our company is more, how do we sustain? And I think you can win by sustaining. Yes, some businesses, maybe there's a winner take all. Mm-hmm. But really, almost there's a lot of opportunities outside of that. That's like saying one restaurant is where everyone eats.
Yeah. I mean, I want to challenge you on sustain.
Please.
Because I feel like you're thriving. I don't feel like you're sustaining. From the outside, it looks like you're thriving. Maybe you're not building a $1 billion revenue business, but you're at 80 million. You've got the flywheel working.
Yeah.
Like, what isn't thriving about that?
No, what I mean by thriving is when people want to go faster, why? Mm. And when I was running AppSumo earlier in the years, these catastrophes, I was like, I just got to go faster, and we got to get faster because this is what you hear.
Yeah.
And we hired a CEO because I was afraid of actually ruining the business. So I brought in this other guy named Eamon, And I said, just make enough money so we can sustain and we don't have to risk anything, because I'm too afraid I'm going to ruin all this. Like my father had the same experience where he did well and then he ruined it. And Eamon actually approached it from like kind of, I don't know, Midwestern values, very slow, very steady. And it was this year after year, like compounded growth where he wasn't trying to 10x. He wasn't even trying to 2x. He's like, let's just try to 15% growth. But because he wasn't pressuring himself to grow so much, he had a lot more creativity, a lot more flexibility. They ended up doing like 50% growth, then 70% growth, then 90% growth without needing to rush so fast for what reason. And so that's how I've shifted my leadership and our business growth, where I think this year in 2024, we're trying to grow 7%.
Okay.
And I just got, every day I get a pulse and like we're already at 25% growth this year because we're not stressing on how we 10x our business so fast and try to prove to anybody else.
Right. You mentioned your dad lost his business.
Yeah.
What happened?
Similar to me and how I felt, he was, came to America, sales, he sold carpets, then he sold these copiers. And I think he just had a lot, he made a lot of bad decisions, right? He was drinking, he was drugs. He didn't do any budgeting, didn't do any financial management. I was also 10 or 12, so I don't fully know the extent of all this stuff. But I remember at times we'd go to Costco and he's like, you can have whatever you want here. Or I can go to the arcade and we could play all the games we wanted. And at some point, I do remember him on his deathbed just kind of drinking Sierra Nevadas. I don't know why I always remember that. Just feeling sad, and he could barely afford that place. He was renting one room in a house. And it was just from a lot of his own bad choices. And I was like, well, I guess subconsciously, I'm sure that's how I felt many years running AppSumo. Like, I'm going to do the same.
You can do the same. And
just like be reckless, be a liability, make some bad decisions, make bad hires, just self-sabotage.
So how have you dealt with that?
I mean, therapy is definitely a helpful one. Yeah. I would say in the first decade of AppSumo, we're on year 15, it was surrounding myself with people who have families, people who are stable, people who show up every day and they show up on time. And so finding people around me to support me that are, what maybe I consider myself weaker in.
And this was a conscious hiring strategy for you?
100%. When people are like, hey, I've had a job less than a year, that's just, even to this day, almost a red flag to be hired at our company.
When you brought on a CEO, you're giving up a level of control.
Yeah.
Right. You've got, if you're going to bring on a real CEO, you've got to give them some autonomy to make decisions. How was that for you?
Everyone who says they're not a micromanager, micromanages. Let's just start there.
Really?
I thought the first 2 years, I think, to take a step back, a lot of people aspire to make a lot of money and step out of the business. So in a sense, it was like a dream scenario for most people. For me, I think I felt a little lost when we put him in because I was like, well, what do I do all day? And that was something I struggled with, which we can catch up on. In the beginning of the first 2 years, it was literally like training wheels. It was like, don't fuck up what we gave you. Just make the number, $120,000 a month. Just keep the lights on so we can do other projects. And I didn't have as much worry about anything because it was a very clear thing for him to accomplish, which is the 120 number. As the company grew and we had other things that we were starting to do, he just had clear revenue numbers. And I was like, as long as you get your revenue number, I'm going to try not to care about other things.
Such as?
Who he hires. Like he hired, his first sales guy was a roofer, sold roofing.
Better than roofies.
Yeah. No, he hired all these people. And I'm like, dude, you're hiring the weirdest fucking people, man. And
were you able to let go? Were you able to say like, okay, like if this is your vision, then I'm good with it?
Yeah. And that's something I'm even working on because he quit. But yeah, when he was doing it, I was doing my best to step back and say like, what's the numbers we're agreeing on? What's the vision we're trying to go to? And then let him make the calls on it. It's the same as being a parent, I'm sure, which is like, oh, this is a really bad decision. And even to this day, I'm having a hard time sometimes letting go as CEO of AppSumo because I came back a few years ago, which is like telling someone what to do, telling them who to hire. And it's something I'm still working on.
So do you hire for people who will tell you you're doing that?
The best people I've worked with when I was at Facebook, and I'd say the best people at AppSumo, they push back the most.
Yeah.
They challenge me the most. And I've always admired that, which is, yes, we have goals. Yes, we have alignment on these things, but they're challenging to be like, okay, what's really the best idea? Not just because you're the CEO or the founder.
Yeah. Most corporate cultures don't work that way. Very few do, right?
Yeah. One of our cultural values is feedback is a gift. So at the end of meetings, like, oh man, what was it a week ago? I think I shit on someone in a meeting. I was like, dude, that was a bad meeting, huh? He's like, yeah. I was like, how could I have done that better? He's like, here's how you could do it better. I was like, thanks.
Do you formalize that process?
Yeah. So twice a year, this is copied from Uber. We do T3, B3s.
Say more.
So normally mid Q1, Q2, and then Q3, Q4, basically just what are top 3 things you're doing? What are bottom 3 things you're doing? I think sometimes now it's like there's different software products. Just like, tell me 3 things you like I'm doing so I can feel good. I'll keep doing them. 3 things that I can improve on. And you don't have to make it super formalized, but it's a way that you can kind of have a even quicker feedback loop depending on your size.
I think most managers, and I use that word separate from leaders, are whether formally or informally trained in this shit sandwich, which is like, you're doing great, I love you. Here's the one thing you could be doing better, but you're doing great, I love you. So how do you avoid that phenomenon?
Dude, I suck at that. Honestly, there's this woman, Alona, who's our COO. She's the superstar. Because I'll just tell her, I'm like, she's the day-to-day CEO. And she is very, I would say the word is productive at giving feedback to people. And I think sometimes, I don't know if it's my upbringing, Jewish or what, but I'm just more direct about what's not working. But I think there's something to said, like, no one gets excited. I found no one's excited or motivated when you're just criticizing them. Yeah. No one's like excited to go to war when you're just like shitting on them all day. So I think she's even better on something I'm still working on about how to get people excited to like wake up and be like, damn, I can't believe I got to go work on this stuff.
I'm surprised you have trouble getting people excited.
It's not excitement. It's just more, I'm seeing all the areas to improve on a regular basis.
But I want to drill down on this for a minute because I don't like formal annual or semi-annual reviews. Yeah. I hate it. It's like, if you don't know where you stand at any minute, you should feel free to ask. And if we had a meeting where like that didn't go so well, I'm going to say, or I want you to come and say, that didn't feel so good. I don't think that went so well. Right. And I think trying to normalize that immediate feedback, immediate discussion, and it being universal, right? It doesn't matter 100%. Where you are on the org chart or in seniority or whatever, but like being the most junior, youngest, newest person on the team, being able to say it to the CEO is critical for building the right kind of culture. So how are you doing that?
Yeah. You know, a lot of things you'll notice in businesses, like how does the culture evolve, right? And so one of the things that we've evolved, part of feedback is a gift, is just debriefs. So almost we do campaigns at AppSumo. So like in 2 weeks, we have Sumo Day, which is our second biggest sale of the year. And every year, the project management team leads a debrief. And so each year it's like, what was good, what sucked, and then what are we going to change next year? And so now we have like 5 years of data and qualitative feedback to kind of keep improving. So I think those elements now are just starting to get baked in to the culture of our company. And so I encourage everyone, like today, the easiest way you can improve yourself, if it's in your relationship with your wife or husband, ask them. If it's with your coworkers, ask them. If it's in anything in a sport, ask them. And that's kind of the cheat code of ways to like improve in this world.
We talked a little bit about Mint and Facebook and being early at these companies. I'm curious what lessons you took from the way those companies were run that you're applying in your current life.
Yeah. Facebook working for Zuckerberg, I would say probably the number one thing was having a number one thing.
What do you mean by that?
He was obsessed with taking over the whole world. And he was obsessed with growing, it became 1 billion people. And that's something that I think I've done a good job taking away from him, which was very clear on what we're trying to accomplish. Meaning, we're trying to get to 1 billion people. So when you're coming to me with ideas about monetization, which is what I was doing, because I guess I would say I'm a bootstrapper, he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about money. I want to get to 1 billion people. And that level of focus and clarity on what he was trying to accomplish with a clear outcome was something that I've copied in all of my endeavors. So that was invaluable.
Does that come with some risk that you ignore the downsides of some of the strategies and tactics you're using to get there?
The downside is actually when you set such a high goal, people burn out because you're like, I have a podcast, I still do it. And my goal is 100,000 downloads an episode. And I got to 30,000 downloads an episode, which is still in the top 1%.
Which is a huge number in audio.
Yeah. Top 1%. But because it was only 30,000, not 100,000, I was like, well, I failed. I don't want to do this anymore.
Wow.
And so I stopped doing it for, I think, 6 to 9 months. And then my numbers went even down further. And so I think that's definitely the dark side for having like, I got to hit a 100x goal or whatever. And then you don't do it. You think you're a failure when you're actually still doing pretty good, but all you have to do is sustain it. So that's definitely some of the downside of trying to run really, really fast for a very long time.
What'd you take from Mint?
Mint was interesting. I'll tell for everyone out there, I give a lot of credit to Aaron on the finding a very important problem
Mm.
And a lot of people will have excuses and they don't take their power back. Like, oh, I don't have a network. I don't know how to code. I don't know this. Aaron moved to Silicon Valley by himself, no network, no like formal anything. He locked himself in an apartment and built the Mint prototype by himself for 6 months. This guy doesn't know Silicon Valley, VCs, nothing. And to me, it's another great example of that. We can do it. All of us can do it. And so that was the great inspiration around him. Just like, no, I like this idea. I like this problem. I'm going to build it. And I'd say secondly, it helped me find marketing, but it helped me really show like if you can find something that's so people are so excited about, it's very easy to market. And I think that's where a lot of people get backwards.
Yeah.
Like, how do I market this thing? I'm like, no one wants it. Like, you can't market it. Like, I was listening to one of your guys' shows with the Kava. The Kava. Yeah. Kava's great. You don't have to market Kava that hard.
Kava's great.
Like, my wife is like, hey, we're getting Kava tonight. I'm like, let's get that Kava again. And so, even with AppSumo, we have these amazing deals.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we grow? We just get better, amazing deals.
Yeah.
And then, yes, we can do marketing that'll accelerate it. And it was just so obvious with Mint. And then, maybe one bonus thing I'd throw in with Mint, it was just being clear who it's for. So you have a problem. Who has this problem? Mm-hmm. And so for Mint, we had two really clear audiences. One was people kind of personal finance obsessed. They're reading the finance blogs. They're checking out like, oh, what's the latest APR and APY of these different things. And second one was young professionals. So you just graduated college, you're making $65,000 working in tech. And so having a clarity of who those customers were made the marketing of where they are a lot easier.
Tell me about $1 Million Weekend.
$1 Million Weekend, it's funny. I wanted to start with my insecurities, where it was something like, I think I wanted to prove that I'm smart or prove that I'm successful or prove that Facebook, when they fired me and then when Mint fired me, like I can do it. And I think this book was probably some of that, like, hey, I want some level of attention and validation and ego stroking to create a product that will help a lot of other people. And I wanted something that was going to also be hard. I don't know. Sometimes, I do a lot of YouTube videos or I do podcasts or do software like that. That's pretty, there's kind of a known, but I wanted a project that was going to be hard and take many, many years.
And the book was that?
Yeah. Book was hard.
Why was the book hard for you?
I mean, a lot of insecurity. Can I actually help people? Like I've worked literally for the best in the world. I've done it numerous times. Can I actually help others? And it's a big problem. Like, how many business podcasts are there? How many business books are there? How many MBA programs are there? But still, there's not one way people can start a business. Mm-hmm. How is that possible? So how can I even crack that? And so it was a long journey of belief.
When did you start on the book?
March 2020 during COVID.
Okay. So it's been a 4-year journey to get to this point.
Yeah. And it's definitely one of the hardest and most rewarding projects that I think it's really, for all of us, find something hard to do. Find something you want. Like, I did want to write a book. I did want to put everything I've learned about how I've started businesses and without money, without time and package it into one thing. And I wanted something to prove to myself that I can do it. And I think that I'm almost proud more than anything, besides people reading it and getting results and all the experiences of that I finished it. And I think for all of us, like, find something hard, prove to yourself you can do this stuff because you can. And that's what the book is for. The book is to give each person their own confidence. So when they're doubted at work, when they're doubted by getting fired, when they're doubted because they broke up, they're like, fuck, can I do this? It's like, yeah, you can. And it may not work right away, but you keep sticking with it. You keep trying, it eventually does work.
Well, I also love that what I hear you saying is there are multiple levels of success with the book. And the first one is just doing it. Just doing it is an achievement. Yeah, I got through this. I did the hard thing, right? And now there's this thing sitting here.
Yeah.
And part of what you're doing in the book is saying to people, go ask your first investor, figure out who that is, your best friend, your partner, or whatever. Yeah. Ask them for $1 to invest in you, right? To incentivize you to actually get going on whatever the thing is. So when you think about people reading the book, going and asking for that first $1, getting it, what do you want to hear back from them a month later, 6 months later, a year later? What is that next level of success for you with this?
Yeah, with the book, with $1 Million Weekend, I want to see people believe in themselves. It's a business book wrapped in self-confidence. It's like, the life-changing magic of tidying up, the Marie Kondo? It's about cleaning your house.
Yeah.
This is the same thing, but with a business. And finding out who you can become. And realizing who we can become is possible through business. And you're like, what do you mean through business? I thought business is like, there's marketing and then there's a SWOT analysis and there's like, what's your TAM and whatever fucking acronyms people are coming up with these days, like what AI bot people are talking about. But it's really being like, maybe I could actually live this kind of life, and it's possible for me. Even my story is changing, and it's realizing for everyone, they can write their own book. They can have their own dream story. And so the book, yes, it has the recipe that I've done time and time and time again, and my mistakes. But it's more, especially at the beginning of the book, it's about how do people get started. And like my brother, he's never started. He's just not starting. And it's like, okay, you can start. And then the second thing is the skill of asking. And so how do you get better at it? It's a skill like anything. Like I knock on doors on my YouTube videos. I go to strangers. I did in LA. I've done Newport Beach. I've done it all over the world. Yeah. And it sucks. It's really tough to ask people what they do for a living.
You get a lot of no's.
You get mostly no's. That's why my name's Noah. And, eventually though, you get better at asking. And then when people say no, you're like, that's okay. Maybe it wasn't for them. Yeah. And maybe you can even ask for feedback. And so what I'm looking for, and what's been the most rewarding, because there's never enough book sales that make me feel satisfied. Yeah. That's what I talk about in therapy a lot. But what's the most satisfying is seeing someone say, hey, I got someone to give me $1. I didn't know I could actually do this. Or this woman messaged me today. I think her name's Emanuela. She's like, I asked someone to finally be my customer. It's like, that's great.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. And this is the book. Yeah, I wish when I was coming out of college that there was a blueprint to follow to feel good about myself and have a business journey that can work.
Well, I think part of what's cool about it is my dad is in his 80s.
Wow.
And he has got still more ideas for businesses than almost anyone I know short of you.
Yeah.
And my kids are teenagers and they're full of ideas as well. And I think the book works whether you're in your 80s or in your teens or somewhere in between. It's really about just saying, fuck it, I'm going to go do it. Let's fucking go.
Dude, I got to speak with these kids who read $1 Million Weekend ever in New York. Holy shit, it was cool, man. And solve your own problems.
Yeah.
So one of the kids, in class you have a pen and you chew on your pen. So they created a lollipop for the end of their pens.
Nice.
I was like, that's kind of a cool business idea. Are these other guys were baseball players, but you can't spit sunflower seeds on the field. So they made shellless seeds, which you can just buy the seeds, but that's fine.
And these are the guys who are hustling at like at preseason and they're just handing out samples.
So they take a Ziploc bag of seeds they bought and they put cinnamon and sugar. And then they have a little, I think they have an Instagram page called Shellless Seeds.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, awesome, mazel tov.
Yeah.
Go solve your own problems. Go have fun with this stuff. And those are the kind of things where all the random shit I did from high school, where I wrote a blueprint about Uber. Because I was like, oh, I have a car. Maybe I could drop off shit. But I didn't do anything. And then in college, I built a website called Come Get Used, which is not a sex site. It was a used book site. And it was like, well, that kind of worked. And then I built a college Craigslist called College Up. And then I built a conference business, which is how I connected with you.
Yeah.
Called Community Next. Everything added up and all the learnings added up to AppSumo.
But you when you say you built, you were actually coding, you were actually right. So for people who can't code, like they may be daunted by this.
Yeah.
What do they do?
Yeah. So it's not about the code. It's about the people with money and the people with problems. So I'll give you a few examples. One, my wife, this is a fun example. She wants to start a balloon business because we were trying to get baby balloons for baby showers. You guys ever bought balloons these days?
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
It's expensive.
They're really expensive.
It's like $3,000. Yeah. So she's like, these are great ways to think about problems. Like, what are you spending time on? Yep. What are you avoiding? What are you spending money on that's too expensive? These are all great business opportunities. And it's exciting. So she was like, I love making these balloons. Maybe I can make balloons for myself. So she did it for a baby shower. It cost us, I think, $100. She was like, So now we're talking about tech. Who cares about tech? Tech is never the problem. It's the customers that are the problem. And how do I serve these people? And then how does tech accelerate that? How does tech help that? So let's take another one. If you want to do a business planning bachelor parties, I'm going to build a marketplace for bachelor parties. Is that really the issue? Or can you use Google? Can you use Craigslist? Can you email your friends? Like, does anyone have bachelor parties? I'm going to set it up for you. And then you can use ChatGPT to make it. But again, I think people put the tech before the customers. Yeah. And that's constantly a thing I try to avoid. Now let's go to someone who's out there that's an engineer and they're like, no, those are commercial bullshit. All right, you're doing a little marketplace maybe for bachelor parties, whatever that is. Or you're doing balloons. I'm going to build Uber. Yeah, I need tech. Okay, let's break down Uber. What is Uber? It is one person needing a ride and one person having a car. So do you need tech or do you need a driver? You need a driver and you need a customer. Can you do it with a Google spreadsheet? Can you do it with a WhatsApp group? Can you do it with text? Yes. Same thing with Airbnb. They started with an email list.
Yeah.
Then when you have demand, then when you maybe have customers, then yes, you can start using technology to then scale what you've built. There are also low code solutions. There's a tremendous amount. We promote them on AppSumo. You can go to AppSumo and get them $50 for life.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples, I'll just give you, I'm just showing you I want to show people like, dude, you don't need to code. And like AppSumo, and I'll give you a great example after this. AppSumo was built with a PayPal button and my Gmail. And now we have almost a 30-person tech team, right? So you can build the product very, very lightweight. Someone bought it with PayPal and then I emailed them the codes to redeem the software. Last example, my buddy Sam Parr, I love this guy. Check him out. My First Million. These guys are great. Sam had a problem where it's really hard to find accountants and tax people. And anyone who has a business knows that.
Yep. Good ones.
Yeah. Oh,
yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Sam was like, he tweeted out like, hey, does anyone else have this problem? What do you think? And you don't have to have a big audience. People have this misconception. You need a big audience for big money. That's not true. But Sam did tweet out and people were like, yeah, I have that problem. So Sam literally used a site called Bubble and he built a thing where you can literally just list your accountants and then people can rate their accountants. In month 2, they did $24,000. They're in month 3. I think they're on track for $30,000. He launched the idea in a weekend because he was like, this sucks. Use the Bubble site. And there's other versions. There's Webflow, WordPress. You can also just use email or WhatsApp. Got it out on the site. And now, I think it's on track to be a 7-figure business.
Well, part of what I love about this also is let's go back to the Uber. Right? Uber's taken, Lyft happened. Like these services are out there, but there are areas that are underserved by them. It's hard to get an Uber if you live, in lots of places.
I'll give you a great example.
Yeah, please.
Someone please do this.
Yeah.
Airbnb for co-working in your local areas.
There you go.
So for instance, my neighbor has 2 kids and he's a night nurse and he's like, hey, can I rent your guest house as an office? And I said, no. But how many houses are rented at Airbnbs where people trash them? No offense, Airbnb, but the fucking people are disgusting.
Sure.
I have an Airbnb and these people don't give a shit. But co-working people will pay more. They're cleaner. They don't use it on weekends. They're not there at nights. And there's a lot of houses that are long-term rented. You can make more renting it to a professional than a long-term renter or a short-term renter.
Well, and you're also solving this broader issue of like we live in these boxes on screens. We're not connecting with each other as humans.
Other people. But maybe you don't want a 30-minute, 20-minute commute to a big-ass building. So could you not find someone who's renting a house on Zillow? Hey, you're renting your house for $3,000. I'll pay you $4,000. Why? I'm going to do a co-working space. If you can confirm for 12 months or 3 months, I'll do it. Great. Let me go message a bunch of people. And people always do this excuse. It annoys the shit out of me. Well, you have a bunch of rich friends. You don't need rich friends to rent a $400 a month room. You don't need, I don't think that's rich to have a $400 office space, but do things within your area that you have people Like if you're a nurse, that might be a harder business to start.
Right.
But if you're working on a computer at a desk, you have coworkers, they have coworkers, you have people on LinkedIn, message those people and say, hey, I have this new office idea, just like Airbnb started.
Right.
Does anyone want to rent some offices? It's $500 a month. And you get, whatever amount of people you can do in this co-working spot, 10 people, you have 5,000, pay the person 4,000 and you have a profit. And that is potentially how you could start $1 million or $1 billion business.
Okay. So the lawyer in me starts going liability, right? Like, is it zoned properly? Right. Yeah. So, I mean, literally on this specific idea for the entrepreneur who's got the idea, sees the problem, goes out to their friend group and, identifies, yes, there's a need for this. But like there's real risk in some of these ideas. So how do you balance that risk with the upside of being able just to get going?
I go all in.
You just do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think people, a lot of times what they're doing is the risk is a way of avoiding starting. It's a way of getting going. They're like, well, do I need to do zoning laws? Do I need to have an LLC? Do I need to have my domains? Do I need to have my social media? Have you helped one person yet? No. Let's just help one person and then you can worry about all that stuff. Once you validate it, I would say 3 customers and you get this going, by all means, go protect yourself. Like now when you run a bigger company, it's insane. Like you get all this bullshit lawsuits, like the GDPR stuff. California's got all these separate crazy laws we have to do just for the state. Yeah, so you should adhere to them, but make sure you create those problems is the way I've approached it versus you spend all this money and time with the problem. You haven't even verified that anyone wants it.
All right, I want to ask you the same question that Mark Cuban was asked.
Oh, interesting.
You lose it all. You're down to $500 an iPhone. What are you doing?
Do I have like my friends?
Sure.
I think that's the thing. One, I don't think I'd lose it all. I would keep it in cash. Like I'm not a risky person. Like I don't keep. I don't do a lot of crypto. I don't do.
Okay.
Anyways,
but let's is something.
Yes.
something
100%.
happens.
I think the two things that I would do, number one, I would go to all the people that I've been helping and interacting with for the past 20 years of being a human in the professional world. And so I think for people out there, who do you have in your corner that you've helped, you've worked for, they've hired you in the past? And how do you revisit some of those people and think about, okay, what have I just done in the past year that I've gotten paid for?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've been doing a lot of YouTube. I've written a book. Okay, who's doing YouTube as a business? That's in my network. Who's doing maybe a book that I can see? Like I have a friend, Cody, who's doing a book. Hey, I see you're doing a book stuff. Do you want to pay me for that?
Mm-hmm.
So number one, I think you can look through everyone you've ever helped and you'd be surprised how much people want to help you. I think people discount that. Now, the second thing, I think it's much harder to build a house if you don't have a good foundation.
Mm.
So let's say you only have $500 and you've got rent and you've got kids and you've got a mortgage. You're like, I don't know if you have a mortgage and rent, but you have food. That's scary. So my first thought is take care of your shit. So I would go drive Uber.
Get your freedom number.
I would get my guaranteed income taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've noticed is that if you're like, oh my God, I've got to sell $10,000 and I've got to be the best salesperson in 3 months and all this shit, that is very hard if you're not worried about how you're going to get food tonight.
Yeah.
That is very tough.
Yeah.
And so how can you get guaranteed income, which there's literally guaranteed that you can drive Uber, you could do Uber Eats, you can do DoorDash, you can do any of these things guaranteed. And you could see these people. There's people that are hustling for that.
Yeah.
Then start thinking about other ways that you can create money. But I think people are trying to do like, I would go sell. It's like, it's very hard to sell when you're worried about your rent.
So no, one thing we haven't talked about is real scale lessons from AppSumo. So what are the scale lessons you'd share?
Yeah. So I want to share a few of the inflection points that have taken us gone from like 300 to 3 million to 30 million to 100 million. I'll just share a few of the kind of unique moments. Number one was when we did a giveaway. So, in marketing, it's hard to know what's going to work. I found, you talked about looking outside for inspiration. I looked in a women's catalog and they had a giveaway to Italy. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun, but that's not really for me, not for AppSumo.
This is like in women's apparel catalog or something. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what if we gave away some cool software? And then my friend was like, what if you gave it away for life? And so we gave away Dropbox for life.
Wow.
This is in 2010. And we actually built software to run our own giveaway, launched it in the morning. And by noon, 250,000 people signed up for it. I was like,
it's a pretty efficient acquisition channel.
That was the best thing. That's probably a $50 million marketing strategy. And we still do giveaways. We're literally today giving away a Cybertruck.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not eligible. And I think by the time this comes out, it might be late, but it's something that worked. And I think that's, so one, the giveaway was great. That was an inflection point. Two, we built software to run that giveaway. That actually turned out to be another inflection point where we started launching our own software tools. It's called the AppSumo Originals. So we basically take expensive subscription software and make a one-time payment version.
Yeah.
So we launched a Calendly competitor called TidyCal. I don't know if you've heard of this, but that's a $3-4 million a year business. Just launching our own versions of kind of the simplified one-time payment version.
When you use AppSumo to market it, right? So you've got the flywheel really built there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the other kind of thing for a lot of these businesses is how are you doubling down in areas? And this is, I think people all hear this and they just don't do it. What I mean by that is like, we found that email marketing was huge. That's been our bread and butter. We even built an email marketing business. And so how much are you investing in email marketing? So if email marketing is good for you, like we have a team of 6. So for anyone out there, like if email is good or social is good or sales are good or whatever the areas that are working, how do you actually invest a lot more? I think people are way under investing in their success. Meaning they have areas that are working that they have not capitalized fully.
They're not fueling the fire that's already lit.
Not even close, right? Like if you notice your podcast is doing great, let's take Masters of Scale. Maybe instead of once a season, why not once a week?
Yeah.
Once a week is doing well, why not once a day? And I think that is, you have to find the balance of sustainability. But that's definitely been something I think we've had a lot of inflection points around that level of scaling. I'd say second question I've been thinking about. I've just been thinking about how to live.
What do you mean?
I don't know if that's related to scale, but I think we're thought about some of these people are working so hard and they're just not living.
Yeah.
And after the book came out, $1 Million Weekend, and it's done super well and people are loving the book and AppSumo is growing and YouTube, I'm realizing that maybe I'm working just to prove for others versus like, how am I starting to prove for myself? And so that's really what I've been grappling with or struggling with in a productive way, which is how do I just start doing the things that like, if no one's watching, if no one's paying, I'm at least doing the thing I'm really happy with.
Yeah.
And those are the areas that I think you actually ultimately also have the most success in life with, monetarily and just satisfaction. And so I've been reducing the amount of videos I'm making. I've been reducing the amount of work I'm doing at AppSumo, trying to have more CEO approach where the people, the playbook, the budget, and then be more available as a father. So that's a lot of where my mentality and my mental space has been these days.
Yeah. I mean, what I hear you saying is, and this is something I talk about a lot, by virtue of the fact that we're having this conversation or that you're listening or watching this, we're blessed more than 99.9% of people who've ever lived. And not to be too like grandiose about it, but like not born into slavery or serfdom, right? Like we're born into a world where, at least in most of our country, women still have full set of rights. You know, and I don't mean to make light of that at all. But in all sincerity, we have access to like the world's catalog of knowledge with a supercomputer that sits in our pockets. I mean, it's amazing the moment we live in. And so once you take care of the basics, it's almost a sin not to pursue fulfillment, however you define it. And if fulfillment is trying to make a ton of money, okay, cool. But if fulfillment is also like, I want to be a great dad, I want to be the best partner I can be, I want to have these experiences, then figure out how you put yourself in position for that. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah. You know, and it get to places of wealth so you can make that decision if that's what's important for people. And I think more people can realize they can do it. I think that's like part of what $1 Million Weekend was for me. And like, can I actually create a book through kind of the same process I've created companies and will it do well and help people? And I was like, oh, wow, it does work. And it's kind of come to the place with my wife. I've been blessed to be with my wife. And she's like, I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care how much money you have. I just care who you are as a person. And your daughter doesn't know about any of this stuff. She never will. She won't know for a very long time. She just wants you to be present.
She really won't care.
And I was like, damn, really? Like I've worked so hard to prove all these people wrong. And she's like, no, you just have to prove yourself and us right. So it's been a transition, right? Because I think some of the skills and things that help us prove, you know, create stuff and drive and, you know, aggressiveness and success, you know, maybe need to evolve as well. And I think that's where my 40s, it's been an evolution.
What's next?
What's next is right now.
Nice.
Right now. And I'm focused on being a father, which is great. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. It's like the $100 million thing, but it's like, I guess I didn't think I would get the chance. I didn't know if I'd find a partner that would be a good fit for me. I didn't know if I'd have the maturity or the stability to be able to be present for that. And just being available for that is definitely my number one priority. And, you know, I have a partner who calls me on my shit about that. You know, like I'm flying out here for the day and she's like, you better get your fucking ass back here tonight for this baby and for me. And I was like, yes, ma'am. And, you know, I think I'm reducing a lot. I'm trying to reduce, you know, I think for everyone, just spring cleaning. So for me, I'm spring cleaning like, okay, I'm making YouTube videos. Do I want to do this? I'm doing book tour. Like you guys, I would fly. It's exciting. I want to come see you guys. But like, what other things am I doing that I don't know if that actually aligns with where I'm at and where I want to be going. So it's reducing stuff and then just being available.
Yeah. I love that, taking inventory and then taking action.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah.